So how'd you get to 65?
Oh, well, basically, I guess the view from 2022 with the Russia-Ukraine war focuses on on our vulnerability on eventually the five Fs that I'm talking about. One is eventually fuel, food, and freight, which are all import dependent. We need to be able to fix these things. Otherwise, the vulnerability of the peso uh, was already seen when we saw the peso further weakening from 2022. And looking at the chart, that points to around 65 as a key target over the medium term. So unless we fix these issues of food, freight, and fuel, then definitely that could trigger further peso weakness, whether it's 63.50 or 65,
Right. So you're
depending on
saying that
how
the
we
governor
address.
hasn't done its job to fix the very issues that you'd been just telling us?
Oh, no, basically, monetary policy can only do so much. You have to understand that interest rates tend to affect our choices as consumers, whether to save money or not. That's why the governor in that snippet highlighted we want consumers to resume spending. But right now, if we're going to use monetary policy alone, that will just keep them from spending and tightening their belts.
Exactly to your
Household will not
point.
be
So
spending.
you're mentioning here of a fiscal fix that you have yet to see.
Yes, definitely. That's the reason why whether the 6350 that the governor said could be orderly or the 65 over a 2 to 3 year term is actually a sort of warning. If we don't do the necessary measure on addressing food security, addressing the fuel and energy resiliency, then definitely that is the path we're going to.
Okay, so what exactly should we be first addressing? You mentioned food security and then fuel, and then we hear from the CPBRD publishing a report saying the train fuel taxes are seen worsening the oil shocks. How do you put this all together then to something that is comprehensible and also workable for government?
Okay, we need to understand that, one of the key problems that we have is governance. If we were to just talk of a short, uh, allow me to just focus on the last 3 years. Assuming that there were 130 to 300 billion that were lost to floodgate, that would have been equivalent to 15 pesos of gasoline prices that are lowered, and the government could have subsidized that. So this is just an example how corruption could have been prevented and could have helped us. Okay, right now the government, given the present situation, government needs the extra funds to be able to do its heavy lifting. Monetary policy cannot do that alone. So imagine just like the pandemic, we had the liquidity that was provided by the BSP, which is really the heavy lifting. But we had Bayanihan 1 and 2 to help eventually businesses recover. But right now, what we need to be able to do is create an upgrade for the economy. During the pandemic, we were forced to move into digital 2.0. Digital 2.0 was brought about to a cashless society because we didn't want to accept money and it was faster to do. Unlike in the 1980s, digital 1.0 were ATMs. Now, in our situation today, energy resilience is the one in question. We need to upgrade our energy resilience. We need to be able to come up with a short term and medium term plan to be able to provide a much cheaper source of power or to lessen the cost of
So
power.
Jonas, define
Right
that
now,
for us. Let's do the short term first on what could be the low-hanging fruits here. We're already entering week 13 of the Middle East conflict, and what you've just said, it's like we're not under an energy emergency state, in which we are. So what's the
yeah,
short-term fix?
I think that for now, the short term fix when we talk about energy resiliency is ensuring that there is supply so that businesses could continue. The second, over the medium term, is probably revisit Jeronimo Velasco's energy resilience plan, which was written in during the 1970s, who was our energy secretary then. He highlighted certain things. Right now, we need to overhaul our power system because most of our power is eventually big power plants. What we need to do is try to distribute it over a certain area so that if one goes down, it's very easy. So I think the best way to look at it is just powering your phone. Some people will want a 10,000 mAh battery power bank that you want to carry, but it's very heavy. So you need to be more practical. You probably buy those 2,500 or 5,000 mAh and, leave one in the office, leave one in your car or one in your bag so that it will last you the whole day. Very similar situation on how we want it. So that's why there are what San Miguel is doing on the power storage and all, so that we're able to distribute this power so that it makes it
Okay.
easy. So that's the medium term.
Right. Let's get back to the short-term fix then. How can the government go about what you're proposing, given that we've already lapsed at least week 13, and nothing to your assessment has happened yet to alleviate the concerns we have on the peso, with you forecasting 65 to the dollar?
Well, I guess the first thing is really rationalize where we want to bring our power. You have to understand that we were one of the first countries since the 1970 to be RE, or renewable energy. We had geothermal, we had hydro, and now we're starting to look into solar. So we need to first get what do we want, because government wants to have ATM. You want agriculture, you want tourism, you want manufacturing to come. So you need to address that power. So that's on the powers. I mean, that's on the energy side. But what we need to also look into is to food. This is, I think, one of the most important. And we need to be able to show that there is price stability. So government can take advantage of the Kadiwa stores, make it not twice a month, but make it weekly and allow other food manufacturers to sell there so that it will reach the masses, and there will be a expectation that prices are still stable rather than rising.
Well, price stability we can get if we can resolve the issue on fuel. And there is this recurring desire to want to suspend excise taxes on gasoline and diesel. Are you proposing that, or are you proposing other policy fixes in the short term in order to alleviate that concern of an increase in food prices because of fuel?
Well, basically, I think it's really more of other measures rather than suspending the excise tax, because government needs the additional revenue now rather than borrow, given the high interest rate. So you need the additional revenue. So what you need to be able to do is work with the agriculture sector to eventually improve that productivity, provide more, so that, instead of trying to import more of rice, especially the last 2 months, we've already seen a 2 months of rising rice prices. I fear that, over the weekend, I saw that there were already prices at 59.75. I fear that, there could be a convergence at 62 between a kilo of rice and eventually the Philippine peso.
How would that happen?
So we need to. Huh?
How would that happen?
Well, basically, what I mean is on a per kilo basis, the pressure of rising prices will see a convergence of the peso at 62 and eventually a kilo of rice at 62. I mean, we need to work fast. It's just it's a writing on the wall that, even that those views of 63.50 to 65 is that we need to act fast. We don't need to, we need not look at big ticket items, but, low hanging fruits to fix it. So we need to be able to work with the freight, especially the transport sector, how to make it more efficient and they use less fuel to be able to deliver goods into certain areas. So there might be a need for some government interventions to work with the supply chains so that it makes it easier, especially if there are some congestions between the port and delivery that needs to be done.
When I asked the governor whether he'd be concerned by a peso forecast of 63.50, citing DLSU economist Jesus Felipe, whom we've had on the same program, the governor had this to say, Jonas.
It depends on how quickly it does that. If it does that in a measured way, then that might be okay. That might be okay. Because along with watching the peso, we also watch the current account. And we're trying to make sure the current account deficit remains sustainable.
You know, any rate hike would typically lift the local currency, Jonas, but in this case, the peso continued to weaken by at least 1.9% last I checked, even after the first rate hike in over 2 years, last April 23. In hindsight, why do you think that's been the case?
Oh, because you have rising U.S. 10-year U.S. Treasuries, which is a benchmark for long-term interest rate, is also rising. And this case has been there since 2020. Since after the pandemic, global interest rates have been on the rise. Now, with the pressures of war, inflation in the U.S. and the rest of the world, and the rising deficits, fiscal deficit of countries, the pressure for interest rates is rising. So that also shows, despite the rate hikes at the BSP, we're really seeing a structural strong dollar.
Well, the government did reiterate that the BSP isn't trying to seek a level for the peso, that we know, that they're letting the market do its work, maintain order in the forex market. But in your book, Jonas, is this still an orderly adjustment, or are we approaching disorderly territory?
Okay. In the past, I've always said that the BSP has done its job in managing the currency volatility. At present, the Philippines is just depreciated by over 4.8% on a year to date, compared to probably where Indonesia and India have depreciated between 6 to 15%. So we're still doing well despite a growth rate of 2.8%, while Indonesia's first quarter was 5.6%. So this is still a good trajectory of how the peso has weakened. So the BSP has done their job. I think the key message that our government should look at is that, hey, we can prevent 63.50, 65 if we fix the food, the fuel, and eventually freight issues, because that will lessen our dependence for dollars and eventually try to keep the budget deficit on a tight leash.
Got that. As you say, the writing on the wall with those issues. Jonas Ravelas, thank you so much for your insights of Reyes Tacandong and Company.